Welcome to Cover Design Studio and thank you for choosing us. In this video, we walk you through designing your CreateSpace cover in Photoshop Elements. You'll learn how to prepare the files for submission to CreateSpace, and at the end of the video, we'll create a Kindle cover as well. To design your cover, you'll need three things: Photoshop Elements, your design file, and your manuscript's copyright page. If you don't have Elements, you can download the free version at Adobe's website. They don't ask for a credit card number or your personal information, so it's an easy way to give their products a test drive. Let's get started. First, you'll need to open the photo editor in Photoshop Elements. Then go to File, Open, and locate the design file you downloaded from our website. Once you find the right folder, select the file that says Front at the end of it that's a TIFF file, a .tiff extension. You'll see other files in here, but only the TIFF will work in Photoshop Elements. So go ahead and double-click that to open. And if you get a pop-up box that says Update, click Update. And one that says Convert Mode, click Convert Mode. If you get a box that says Flatten or Don't Flatten, click Don't Flatten. And once you have your file open, the first thing we'll do is go up to File and go Save As. And we'll save a new version with the name of our book. Click OK. And then I like to just delete over what's in there, and I'm going to call this book the Star Namer. I'm going to leave the word front on the back of it because I'm going to need that as a reference later. So make sure this is saved as a TIFF with layers and the RGB is preserved, and click Save. And the LZW default is fine. So before we get started, we just need to make sure you have a couple of things open. Actually, first go up to the top and make sure up here you have Expert as the one that you've selected. And then over on the left, you're going to want to see your tools, and on the right, you're going to want to see your layers. If you don't see those, just go to Windows and select Tools and Layers. And if you want to see this ruler here, then you can go to View and select Ruler. Now, one of the first things that you'll notice here, if you do have the ruler selected, is that though this is a 6x9 cover design, which can be stretched and changed for any format, any trim size, it does go a little bit beyond 6, and actually down at the bottom, it also goes a little bit beyond 9. And that's because this is going to be a print book, and when this is printed, this edge is going to be trimmed off. So regardless of the trim size that this is in the end, that same amount of edging is going to be trimmed off. You may also see running down the center a guide, and that's something that won't be printed in the final product. So if you see that, it's just a guide for your own purposes, and you can ignore it. So over on the right here, we have all of our different layers, and each of these text layers corresponds with text that's on the actual cover. So this first one says Declarative Statement. It corresponds with Declarative Statement. And then the one below that says Author Name Here. It corresponds with Author Name Here. You get the idea. And the next thing you can do is look for the layer that says Copyright Notice and highlight it. And then find the copyright notice on your cover. Mine's buried down here in the lower corner. It's pretty hard to see. But what you can do is go over to your Tools panel and select the capital T. That's the text tool, and we'll be using that quite a bit. And I'll zoom in here so we can get a better look at this copyright notice. And I can do that by hitting the plus key while I'm holding down the Control key. So it says copy and paste into your book's copyright page, original and modified cover art by artist name and coverdesignstudio.com. So what we need to do is paste this into our copyright page. And if you get a pop-up box like this, just click OK. So we'll click here and copy what's inside the quotations. And we can go right-click Copy, or we can go Edit, Copy. And then open up your book's manuscript and go to the copyright page where you'll paste this line in. I'll paste it here. And now we've satisfied the copyright requirement. I also like to check and make sure that the text is the same typeface and point size as the rest of the text on the page. And once we've done that, we're in pretty good shape. So we can close that and save the changes. And then the next thing we'll want to do is we don't want to see this copyright notice on our final product. So go over to the eyeball on that layer, and if you click it until there's a little red line running through it, you'll see that the copyright notice disappears, and that's what we want. So now we can start modifying the text to customize it for the book. So find the layer that corresponds with the book title or the name of the book. And then go over to the tools and select the text tool. And you'll see we have two different sizes of text, a really small and a larger point size. So we recommend that you change each of these line by line. I have to click OK again here. Change them line by line so that the formatting isn't lost. My book is the star namer, so I can leave that first word in place. If I didn't need it, I would just delete it. So I'll highlight the next line here and get my book title in. Then I'm going to want to click on that layer to render it. So let's go to the top and just work our way down. We'll start here, go over and select the text tool. And oops, I don't know if you can see what I did right here, but I just clicked and accidentally created a new layer. To solve that, just click on it and it'll disappear. It says layer 1. I'll go back and try this a second time. There we go. All right, I'll call this the definitive guide. I'll click to render it and move on to the next one, which looks like it's the author name. My name is Stacy Vanderpool, so I'll type that in and click it to render it. This is the copyright layer, and we already took care of the copyright. This is an area where you can put a quote or a blurb or a positive endorsement. I don't have anything like that for this book, so it's also a suitable place to put a brief description. Everything you need to know about naming your own stars, including a list of recommended organizations. How about that? We'll go down here. This is author information. And this is way down here. I'm going to actually zoom in so you can see this a little more easily. And it's easier for me to select it. I'm going to change this to say night sky gazer and star naming expert. If this were a novel, I could write American novelist and author or something else that's relevant. Okay, this one here is for the subtitle. If you don't have a subtitle or your subtitle is too long for your particular design, this can actually just be a short description or kind of a tagline, such as this one, "The universe is your oyster." And we'll click on it to render it. And moving on. The next one is the title, which we've already done. And then the last one here is in this starburst. Now, most of our cover designs don't have this, but if yours does, we'll show you how to make it work. You just highlight it here with the text tool. And this is where you would typically put an award you'd won or an award the book had been nominated for. But if it hasn't been published yet, you can put something else. The most complete resource on the topic is what we've got here. And I'll click that layer to render it. Okay, so this is looking pretty good here. But let's say that for some reason this didn't work out for you. For example, let's say the title of your book was longer than was really intended for this particular layout. We do have a solution for you. These are all fully customizable. So it'll work with any title, really. Just click the text tool and then highlight the layer, the star namer. And let's say instead of the star namer, this book was called the Star Handbook. You can see that it clearly doesn't fit on the page and it doesn't work. So what we do to change that is we're going to I'll render it here. select the large text. I'll leave the small text small because I think that's okay. And we go down here to the tool options, which you can click tool options if this isn't showing up, and find the place where you can change the point size. So I've changed it to 72. Let me look at it. I think that's still a little bit too big. It's kind of pushing out to the margins. It looks a little unprofessional, so I'm going to make it just a bit smaller. How about I select 60? And you can input whatever number you want. You don't have to select the default. So this is looking a lot better, but you can see there's some spacing in between the words. More spacing than there were in the lines in the original design. So I'm going to select text and go down here to where it says leading. And lettering refers to the space in between individual lines, and I'm going to make that smaller. So I'll select 48. Oh, that looks a little too tight. I'll change it to 55. That's better. And now the spacing between the lines is more similar to what it was in the original layout. But it does look like it's a little too far away from my subtitle. So because these are all fully customizable, what I can do is just make sure I have that layer selected and go over to the Move tool, which is right here. And you can actually move any layer once you've selected, and I can move it anywhere on the page, but really all I want to do is move it down a little bit so that it's right there, a little closer to my subtitle or my tagline. And then if I want to change what I've done, I can go undo, move, or redo. And you can do that anytime you make a mistake. You can go up to hit edit, undo. So after you've checked it for spelling and punctuation errors and it looks generally as good as you want it to, you're going to go up to go File and Save Your Work. And you can click OK. And then the next thing we'll need to do is create a new file which will have embedded fonts. And this will be a file that we can't change, which is why we create a new one. So we go to File, Save As, and click OK. And at the end of the name, we're going to name it Embed for embedded fonts. And it should still be a TIFF with layers with the RGB. So you can click Save, and the LZW default is fine. Now we need to actually embed the layers in this new file. So we're going to go up to Layers at the top and Flatten Image. And click OK. And you can see to the right, all of our layers have been flattened into a single image, and that way we know all of our fonts are embedded as well. So save your work, and now it's time to start working on the back cover. So after we save, we'll go to File, Open, and go back to that original folder and find the file that at the end of the title says back, and it's a .tiff. Double click to open, and click Update again, and Convert Mode. Now you can see at the top we have two tabs, one for the back and one for the front. So we'll switch back over to the back, and just like we did on the front, we're going to go up to File, Save As, and rename this the name of our book. So it's the Star Namer, and I'm going to leave the word back on the end of it for my own reference later. And that should be as a TIFF with layers and RGB if you have those choices. You can hit Save in LZW. And the text layers on the back work just like they did on the front. You select them and you select the text tool and highlight it to change the type. And we're not going to go through all the layers because we already did that. But one thing you'll notice is there are two icons, a Facebook and a Twitter icon, that are here for you to use if you want them. If you have a Facebook or Twitter address that you want to include on the back of your cover, we also have text layers so that you can customize those to your own addresses. If you don't want them, you just click the eyes like we did before, and you can disappear one of them or you can disappear both of them. We'll bring them back here. You'll also notice that they're linked, and you can see that by these gold little link chains are turned gold here. That means when you select the Move tool, they all move around together so that if you need to shift them up because maybe what you've written on the back doesn't take up as much space as it does here, it won't look orphaned. But you do want to leave this lower corner here that I'm highlighting open for your barcode. That's going to need to be 2 inches wide and 1.5 inches tall in most cases so that they can print the barcode on the back of your book. If you want to unlink these, you just select one of them and then hit Shift and select the next one and release it and right click, and you can just hit unlink if you want to separate those out and move them around. So once you've customized it to your liking and spell checked it and proofread it, you're going to go File Save to save your work, and then go File Save As. Because once again, we need to make a file with embedded fonts. So we'll change the name of this to Embed, a TIFF. And then just like we did before, we actually need to embed those fonts. So we'll go up to the top and go Layer, Flatten Image. And you see it embedded into one single flattened image. And then go File Save to save your work. And let's move on to the spine. So we'll go File Open and go back to that same folder to find your spine. So it's going to have a long name, and at the end of it, it'll say spine.tiff. Here it is. You can click Update, and you can click Convert Mode if those pop up. So here the spine is running vertically, and what we need to do is just select the text tool and make sure we have that layer selected. We're going to select the whole thing and type in the title. Then I'm going to select, this looks like it's in a different typeface, so I'm going to do the author and title separately. Stacy Vanderpool. And then I'll click it to render it. And on the spine, I'll just go File Save and click Save. Our next step is to combine all three elements by putting it all together onto a single template. And we'll do that by using a CreateSpace template. And you can either go to the CreateSpace website to locate this, or there's a link to it on our website on the instructions page. It'll look like this once you pull it up. And these are great templates. They're free to use even if you're not using CreateSpace, and they're very, very easy to format. So we'll go down and set ours up. We want a black and white interior. Let's do a 7x10 trim size, and we'll do a 200-page book with white paper. We'll click Build Template, and then click here to download. And we want to save the file. Click OK. I'm going to save it to the desktop here so I can find it again, and click Save. I can close my download box, and then I need to go to my desktop and locate it here. It looks like it's up in the top right corner, so I'll double click it. I've got to unzip it and dig in a little deeply till I see a PDF and a PNG file. It's the PNG file that we want, so we're going to grab it and drag it over to the desktop. There it is, and then we can close it. So we get back into Photoshop Elements and go to File, Open, and I'll go to my desktop and locate that PNG file. Looks like it's right here. I'll double click that to open it. And this is our cover template that we're going to use. You're going to find this to be very useful. And we'll double check the resolution size by going to Image, Resize, Image Size to make sure this resolution is 300. It's 300.0025, which is great. If it says something like 200, change it to 300. So next we want to go back to our front cover, and we'll find the tab that says Front. Then we'll go up to the top and hit Select All, and then go Edit, Copy. And we'll go back to the tab where our template awaits us. And we're going to go Edit, Paste. And you can see we have a new layer with the image of our front cover. So let's change to the Move tool. And the idea with these templates is that you need to cover all of the orange lines, and you want the inside pressing right up against the dotted line. And you'll want to zoom in to get this really accurate. So you can see we're paired up nicely with the dotted line. We can move it up just a bit to cover that top orange. And I'll scroll over. And if you're not able to adjust this, just go up to Image Transform, Free Transform. And I'll pull this out to the outside edge of the orange. and scroll down and pull it down to the bottom. And then we're going to do the same thing with the back cover. So we want to go to the tab that has our back cover in it. And same thing, we're going to go to Select, All, and Edit, Copy. Head back over to the template and go Edit, Paste. We'll do the same thing, adjusting it into place with our Move tool. I'll zoom in a bit here. Scroll up to the top and get that last detail. Okay, now it's time for the spine. Let's locate our spine. Select the text layer and the text tool, and we'll highlight just these words here and go to Edit, Copy, and then switch back to our template. And then here we want to go to this button here to create a new layer, and it's going to be a text layer, so we'll highlight the text tool. Then we'll click on the page, anywhere on the page, and click Edit, Paste. If your spine text happens to be white, you'll want to use the text tool to highlight it and then move down to your tool options and temporarily change the color to black so that you can see it. And you may first need to drag it to an area where you can see it. Once you've got that sorted, you can go up to Image and go Rotate Layer 90 degrees right. And you can see that rotated it the way we'll need it to be for the spine. Then we can click on the Move tool and drag it here into place, right in the centered area of the spine. Now, depending on the width of your spine, you might have something very wide. If it's too narrow, if your book is fewer than 130 pages, CreateSpace won't actually allow you to have text on your spine. But what you can do if you need to is change the size of the text. If I want to make it a little bit bigger because maybe I have a really wide spine, I can go down and do that at the point size. I'll zoom out to take a better look at it here. You know, I think I actually liked the spine text better small. So I'm going to go back up and back down. Let me select my tools and back down here to the point sizes. Make it small again. That looks good. Just make sure none of the letters are touching part of the orange bar. They need to be completely in the white area. So go back to your spine tab, and you're actually going to want to select the text layer, and you're going to want to click on that eye to make it invisible. Then click on your background layer and go to Select All and Edit, Copy, and go back to your template tab. Then you can go Edit, Paste, and again you'll get a new layer with your spine's background color. And right now it's covering up the text, but that's okay. Let's first adjust it, and I like to actually make it pretty wide, and we're going to tuck it back behind the other layers. So make it nice and wide so there's no gaps or black lines. And then we'll stretch it down to the bottom here. And then lastly, we're going to grab that layer in the Layers palette and pull it down. It's called Layer 3. We want it to sit right above the background. And now things look just as they should. So if you haven't already done so, go to File, Save, to save this file and give it a name. And we'll just call it the name of the book, the Star Namer. And we'll want to save that as a TIFF with the layers preserved in RGB. The default is fine. And then we need to embed this as well. So we're going to create yet another file that's embedded. So we'll go to File, Save As. And at the end here, we'll just write the word embed. And everything stays the same. And then we need to embed these files. So we'll go up to Layers, flatten image. And you can see that the image flattened. And from this file, we can create our PDF. So we'll go File, Save As, and instead of as a TIFF this time, we'll save it as a PDF. This is what CreateSpace will require from you. We want this as a JPEG, and we want this to be high quality. So we'll click Save PDF. And now you have a PDF file that you can submit to CreateSpace for your book cover. So the rest of the video is for those of you that would like to make a Kindle cover in addition to this cover. So go over to the tab at the top where you can find your front cover. And the first thing we'll do is go Select, Deselect. Next go to Image, Resize, Image Size, and change the resolution to 200. And the only box in the bottom corner that should be checked says Constrain Proportions. Now check Resample in that same bottom corner and change the width to 6. The height should change to something right around 9. Click OK. Next we'll go to File, Save As. Click OK. And instead of an embed, we'll call this Kindle at the end, and we'll save it as a TIFF, all the same settings as before. And now we just need to save this file as a JPEG that can be submitted to the Kindle platform. So we'll go back to go File, Save As, and instead of saving as a TIFF, we'll save it as a JPEG. And we want this a high quality 12 maximum, beautiful image. And now we have a JPEG file that can be submitted to Kindle for your book cover.